We begin today with a time lapse, which is something that I don't typically do in City Skylines anymore, but I got a little bit carried away building what we're about to see me build. Now, I want to say that this isn't anything super detailed, this isn't anything super creative, but I had a lot of fun building what is essentially a little seaside resort. And if you remember back to the last City Skylines global collaboration, I actually built a seaside resort back then as well. Now, the reason I'm building one of these in Vanillaville today is because between this episode and the last one, I started working a little bit more with the hotels and I got a little bit curious to see what I could do with those. And I took a look at the spa resorts and I thought that would be really cool on the beach. Obviously, we don't have any oceanfront beaches on this map, but we do have these beaches down by the river. And so I thought, well, why not try and put a little resort down there? And then that turned into, well, why not try and build some kind of little getaway? Let's try and build something down here that's gonna be a tourist destination. And that's basically what I ended up doing. Now, you'll notice that there's actually a metro line running through here as well. Between episodes, I also decided to connect the airport to the metro hub in the middle of the city. And that was a whole thing. The metro lines go underground in all these weird ways to get up the mountains and stuff like that. I don't love it, but it's out of the way. It's out of sight, out of mind. It's not really a big deal. And it's not really something I'm going to be focusing on, to be completely honest. It does come up above ground, and we are going to be putting a metro station in here. In fact, we're just about to do that, which is going to be one of the main ways that people get into this space. I will say this entire video is not going to be time-lapse stuff. It's going to be this first like 7.5 minutes or so of time lapse to show you what I built. And then we'll get into just playing City Skylines the way we usually do with this series. This was just one of those things where I was going to record it. And then I was like, you know, I want to play around and sort of throw some ideas at the wall to see if this is even something I want to do, because I knew it would take like an hour and a half to build just this little thing. And this isn't the only thing I wanted to do today. I also want to work on some fishing industry stuff, which we will get into. So I started throwing some ideas around. I put the metro station in there. I put the spa resort in there as well. And I started using the seaside resort buildings from the content creator pack. And then about 2 hours later, I found myself like, man, I really like what I've built here. And I didn't realize it was 2 hours later. And so here we are. I did record it because I knew that was a possibility. That's something I do a lot when I'm concepting things, is I will record it just in case I love it so much that I don't want to start again. And yeah, today was one of those days. And like I said, this isn't anything that's going to be super duper detailed. There are a lot of trees in here. There's a lot of pedestrian paths that are going to be going in here as well. There's a lot of rocks and all that good stuff. But what I really appreciate about this, and something that I'm only kind of realizing now that I'm sitting down to talk over the time lapse, is that this is vanilla City Skylines. This is without Move It. This is without any of the mods that I used in the global collaboration to go ahead and build that seaside resort. I think that was like a year ago, if not more. I really don't remember. But I vividly remember in that collaboration having to copy and paste so many of these buildings. And part of what I really enjoyed about what we're doing here is the fact that I couldn't copy and paste those buildings. It was, each building is unique. You are not getting a duplicate. You can't use Move It to shuffle them right together to get a wall of buildings that'll look like the row houses from City Skylines 2. There was none of that. And honestly, it turns out pretty good looking. I'm really pleased with the end result, and I hope you will be as well. There's a lot of people that come down here to visit as well. You might have noticed in some of the footage already, there's so many people that come down this way to visit all of these buildings and go to the spa resort as well. It is, of course, massively profitable, as hotels tend to be. At this time, roughly now, at the time of recording, it's doing about $5,000 per week. And my hotels across the entirety of Vanillaville are doing just shy of $35,000 per week. So the hotels are doing some heavy lifting. You have to remember, Vanillaville almost went completely bankrupt, and now we're looking at, in some instances, I've seen the amount of money per week be $75,000. So the hotels and the industry have really pulled us back from the brink. And that's why I wanted to play around with the spa resort just a little bit as well. And honestly, it's probably for the best that I'm doing it this way, because I didn't want to do 2 episodes back to back that were only about hotels anyway. So a little bit of hotel stuff here, a little bit of detailing, landscaping, all that good stuff. And then, like I said, I do want to build some fishing industry, since it's about the only industry that we don't have so far. And then I don't really know what we're gonna do. I'm not done with Vanillaville just yet. It is probably gonna go on break as City Skylines 2 approaches and we start focusing more on that. But I don't want to say that it's done, and I don't want to say that it's necessarily close to being done. I have been thinking about it a lot though, and I think at some point, and I might say, I won't say for sure, but I'm thinking it's probably gonna be part 30 of the series. We might introduce a mod. We might introduce 81 tiles, just so that I can keep going and build things a little bit further out and sort of feather the city out into the region, get some suburbs out there, and just play around a little bit more without things like move it. I don't want to go that far, but I would like more space. So that's something I think I'm going to allow myself to do, is get the 81 tiles and start building out in the region. But I'm not going to unlock everything. I'm not going to get every single tile. I'm only going to go as far as I need to, so that I don't get tempted to do what I always do, which is like, oh, look at that space, we could build a little village out there, and then I never do. So that's going to be my limit. That's going to be the goal. That's going to be the plan with Vanillaville going forward. It will likely go on pause for a little while as Cities 2 comes out, but it's not going away forever. It's not going away yet anyway. This isn't necessarily the last episode before Cities 2 comes out, so don't worry about that. But I guess all that's left to say is, I hope you've enjoyed the build so far. We're going to go into the gameplay now and take a bit of a look at it, a little bit more of a detailed look at it in real time, and then we'll get into building some fishing industry. So let's go ahead and get to it. And as we do get into it, I have to be honest with you. It's been about another hour or 2 since I did the little time-lapse commentary and recording thing, because I got kind of carried away placing trees and paths and detailing, and I happen to love how this space has turned out. So just in case it wasn't clear during the time-lapse section, this is where it is in relation to everything else. It's right between the bulk of the city and the farms and the airport. It's currently called Dean Square, and I'm going to have to rename it, so suggestions in the comments below. But what is different between this and what was in the time-lapse is that the extra little bit of road that went up this way is now gone. And the reason it's gone is because I had nothing to build out there. Absolutely nothing. No idea what I could have put out in that space, so I just got rid of it. What's also different is that there is actually some zoning in here. You might notice we have some buildings that don't really match the theme. These guys are low-density commercial buildings with the shopping malls district theme, and I probably could have used something else. I'm pretty sure Africa in miniature would whatever would probably fit this better. But I kind of like the idea that there's a little bit of modern development here, kind of leaning into the idea that, you know, this is sort of an historic area, but they've also had to put some modern stuff in here to make it more of a tourist trap. I don't really know what exactly, you know, they would have done this for, but it makes money, and it was also needed for the spa resort as well. It needed some shopping nearby to make money, and I wanted it to make money. That's the whole point for this thing existing, so I had to put a little bit of retail space in here, and honestly, it doesn't look too bad. All of these guys are actually set as historical buildings, so they're not going to be changing their style whatsoever. I love this one here right at the end. You've got this rooftop terrace looking out over the water and was just surrounded by the trees and all that good stuff. They're pretty good looking buildings, even if they don't necessarily match the style that we have going on. And then beyond that, I've just decided to put a couple of park spaces in here. I wanted to give people a reason to come into these open spaces, so I put a park gate up here. I've got some gazebos in here, and I did exactly the same thing down here as well with Lake Meadows, which again is going to need some name suggestions. So once again, down in the comments, please, I would appreciate it. And these things are actually relatively popular. There's a good amount of people come through, mostly because they're going to somewhere or coming from somewhere, but they absolutely do the job. And that's essentially the entire space. It's just a lot of landscaping. It's a lot of palm trees. It's a lot of paths and manually placed buildings. I also love this. I decided to sort of do like a little beachfront thing. I can't remember what the name is for these like fences that go out into the water, but I wanted to do those as an extra bit of detailing. I wanted some parking down by the beach as well. I just love how this space has turned out. And honestly, it is, oh God, the game is not happy about me zooming in there. I think it was autosaving. Honestly, this is really popular. There's a lot of people that get off of those trains. It is a ridiculous number of people that are coming and going from this space. There's so many that you can see in there waiting to go up to the city. That train already has 189 people on board out of 500. It's now up to 315. There are so many people that are just using this space as a little tourist destination. So many, in fact, that I decided to build another bridge down here. And I've been very deliberate with this bridge. I decided to keep it as a regular type of road. It's not a highway. This roundabout isn't a highway, and this road here isn't a highway either. And the reason I did that is because in doing that, you make the journey take longer, right? So these guys going this way, the ones that are inclined to go to the farms, are going to stick with the highway because it's actually faster. The road, you know, the speed limit being so much higher, it ends up being quicker for them to go down and around versus going through here. Now, obviously, I could have set an Old Town policy and I could have done things that way, but I don't want to set an Old Town policy on this because we are going to have traffic going through here, potentially, because down here is where I want to build my fishing industry. And I know that's weird to have industrial traffic going through this little holiday seaside resort destination, but I don't know why. I just really like the idea of there being some fishing trucks going back and forth through here. I also love the idea of the fishing boats coming up and past this place, even though they don't need to. The route for the boats doesn't need to be that long. It's just gonna be because I'm sort of building this for the aesthetics versus the functionality. We don't need functionality. We're sitting on $15.6 million. I think for today, we can focus on the form over the function. And so with that in mind, I'm gonna go ahead basically and flatten a bunch of this space, just a ridiculous amount of this space actually, so that I can get right down to the water's edge. I'm gonna be getting rid of all of those rocks, and I'm gonna try and use about this much space here. I need to actually sell some soil, so let's get that done. I'm going to use about this much space, and I'm going to try and not use too much more than this because we could build some stuff back here at some point as well. But my thinking is essentially I want to go and cut into this space, you know, essentially like, you know, this. I'm not going to be doing exactly that, but you get the idea. And the goal is going to be to have a lot of little docks and piers and things like that for the fishing boats to come off of and go around. And I just want this to look really not super industrial, but I want it to look really deliberately man-made versus this, which is obviously it's man-made. It's a bunch of buildings, but it sort of follows the form of the coast a little bit. It's got a lot of nature around it. It's very pleasant. Whereas this is going to be, well, this is going to be a fishing industry. And so with a little bit of measuring done, this is what we're going to be cutting out. So basically, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to get a slightly smaller brush, and I'm going to flatten all of this land like this, and I'm going to flatten it over here as well. And obviously, it's going to be a lot neater than this, but this is essentially what we're going for. And the reason it's going to be like this is because I can fit 2 of these regular fishing docks, fishing harbors, right in there. And that's what I'm going for. Now, obviously, we can do things like fish farms if we want to, and we can get into specifics with anchovy fishing and salmon and shellfish and eventually tuna as well. But I'm not really too interested in going into those at the moment. We might play around with those eventually. We might look into different places for those, but this is going to be just a relatively generic fishing industry location, and that's okay. It doesn't need to be anything super special right now. It's going to be good looking regardless. It's going to do the job that I want it to do, and not a whole lot else. And honestly, that's okay. That's all I want it to do. So when it comes to this space, what I'm hoping I can get away with is going in here and building some keys along this. Now we have some options. We obviously have the regular one. We have the simple sea wall as well. And I'm sort of thinking I don't know that I'm going to be able to get away with this. I'm going to try the simple sea wall, I think, although it doesn't really play nicely that's going to be a bit of a problem, isn't it? I'm going to have to raise the terrain back up in order to put the seawall where I want it to be, and then drop it back down when I've got it where I want. Oh, this is going to be a nightmare. Okay, so is this, oh, it's not as, oh, this is not going to be a fun process. This is going to suck. Okay, so I was being a little bit dramatic. It wasn't that bad to get this to line up, but as you can see, it's not perfect by any means. These guys aren't centered in these spaces, which is both annoying me and I don't care that much about it, so I'm not really going to bother changing them up that much. It would be nice if they were centered in those spaces, but they're not, and they're probably not gonna be, so I'm not really gonna worry that much about it. I am gonna push this terrain back here just a little bit though, so I can maybe get some buildings out there. And you might notice that the terrain in general it's not perfect. That's one way of putting it. I think that's the polite sort of, you know, diplomatic way of putting things. It is by no means perfect, but it's going to do the job. It's going to do what I need it to do. I am going to push the terrain back a little bit further though. I know I said I wasn't going to be going too far back with this, but I think that's going to be my limit there because I do want to put some industrial zoning out here as well. And I'm also wondering how I'm going to connect this all around because I'm thinking that I probably want to flatten this out a little bit, sort of smooth this out. And I kind of want to see if I can just make this a little smoother here as well. That's not really what I was going for, but that'll probably do. And well, actually, what if I was to use the slope terrain tool and go from here to about there and just get something really nice and gradual like that. And then use that both for my road, which is going to be right down along the coast, but also I can use that as a means to get a key going out there. So for example, I could say I want a key that runs from here to, honestly, about there is perfect. And then with a little bit of a guideline, I can connect those together. And then I just run my road along this, curve it up and around and connect it all together. And we're good. We've basically got a functional fishing industry. Obviously, that's not the entirety of the job. That's not the entire episode right there, but it's this is coming together a little bit quicker than I thought it would. Mostly because I thought the terrain stuff was going to take me so much longer, but I'm honestly so glad it didn't take that long at all. And so just like that, we have now got a connection to our little fishing area. And we also have some industry building out there, which is very exciting, but I've just realized I forgot to put a district zone on there, district style on there. It is a district zone. There's just no style on it. Let's fix that. And of course, we're going to go for industrial evolution. So the buildings look interesting as they level up. They'll start out with the old red brick factories, and in time, they'll get to be a little bit more modern. Now, I haven't set up any of the fishing lines just yet, but I have named this place Fishmore Quay because when I was younger, me and my grandparents, some summers, not every summer, but some summers, we'd visit a place on the south coast of Ireland called Kilmore Quay. And it was a little fishing town right down there on the coast. It was fun. I went out in a boat sometimes. I hate small boats. I didn't enjoy it at all. It was terrible. I'm really not good. Really, really not good in open water on a small boat. Big boat, I can do fine. A cruise ship, I'd be okay. But little boat, oh, no. Let me tell you, it was not a good time for me. But I don't know. It's nice and peaceful down there. It's nice and quiet down there. So it wasn't all bad. Now, what we do need to do is get some fishing routes in here. And the interesting thing with fishing routes in City Skylines is they only need to be so long if you're using these generic keys right here. So if I wanted to, I could really have this go to probably about there, turn back, maybe a little bit further, and it would be pretty much at 100% of a load. It would have as many fish as it can possibly carry. But I did mention aesthetics, and that is something I want to lean into a little bit with this. So I do kind of want these boats to go right down past our little Seaside Resort town, which is completely unnecessary. The boats will be at 100% long before they get anywhere near here. But I want at least some boats to come down here just because it's going to look cool. And so that's what this line is going to do. The rest of them, any other fishing lines that we get, are going to be built for efficiency. This one is this is the aesthetics. This is the one that I want it to look good. I want the boats going past all of these old buildings. I think it'll look absolutely fantastic. And we're just going to take it right back, right in here, right past all the other boats as they're heading out and straight back into there. So that's one line that is pretty much good to go. This other one is going to come out and go this way. And this one's going to be a lot more efficient. It's going to go as far as it needs to go, which is honestly, I'm going to say probably about there. We can bring it down all this way. And I'm going to say that'll probably hit 100%. If it doesn't, we can tweak it a little bit and we'll get it to 100%. But that right there is probably good enough. It's not very good looking, but it'll do the job. And we already have some boats heading out, which is absolutely fantastic. And just to prove my point, this boat here hit 100% before it even got to this green bridge. So it does speed up, which is pretty cool. It is going to head down there and do its thing. It's going to make a pass, but there is absolutely no need for the boats to go that far. It just looks good. We've got helicopters going overhead. We've got boats going past. I absolutely love how it looks, and I'm excited to see what we can do in here. I'm also realizing I was going to do a little bit of industry zoning right there as well, so we'll get that filled up. And I should say, the reason I'm leaving all this space empty is because there is another factory that we can build here. We can build this one, the seafood factory. And that's only if we gather 500,000 units of fish. I don't know how big that factory is, but I'm thinking it would be perfect back here. So that's why a lot of the space is being left open. And you know what I'm also going to do here, just because I can? I'm thinking I might throw a little coal power plant in here. This is admittedly an advanced coal power plant. That might be a little unnecessary, although it would fit in there perfectly. Oh, it would fit in there perfectly, wouldn't it? Okay. Do I want to build an advanced coal power plant down here? I think I do. And I think I'm gonna. So what I'm gonna have to do is flatten out this terrain just a little bit. I'm gonna try and make this look kind of cool. So flatten this terrain just like so. We'll get ourselves the coal power plant, which is going to be, I'm going to say right about there. It's completely unnecessary. We do not need a coal power plant down here. I'm genuinely only doing this because I think it's going to look good. I'm also going to surround it in these roads here. In fact, I might make that a little one-way system just again because I can. There's absolutely no need to do this, but it's what we're going to do. So a one-way road just going like this the entire way around this thing. That's totally fine. It doesn't need the big sidewalks either. We'll do the regular ones. And I'm going to say it's going to face, let's have it face that way. So the chimney stack is a little closer to everything here, which is again, not necessarily a good thing for a fishing industry, but it's what we're doing. And I'm going to bring this right back and I'm going to see if I can maybe get away with bringing this key down and around this a little bit. So it's just, you know, nicely caps off the end of this thing. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but I'm really hopeful that if I let the simulation run and I play my cards right, I might be able to. And other than the flooding, that right there is what I'm looking for. Just that little end cap right at the end of everything. It nicely continues around there. We got a little bit more zoning around this thing as well. That's going to be power for all of these buildings, way more power than they need. And it's also going to be good for our factory when we eventually get that. Are you coming in here with 100%? You absolutely are. When do these boats hit 100%? Oh, this line could be half the length that it is. Interesting. So that is actually something I'm going to do. I'm going to make that line a lot shorter. Basically, so you hit 100% about there. So, oh man, I don't know how, I don't know exactly how much of this I need to get rid of, but I'm going to say all of that can probably go away. And we'll do a little test, I guess. We'll bring this sort of around. That is not going to let me do that. So what I'll do is bring this right back and we'll just bring you sort of out this way up to here, around like this, and we'll use this boat. So this boat's at 35, 37, whatever percent. I want to see if this boat can get to 100% by the time it gets back, because I mean, it's catching a lot of different things. I don't know if you catch different things at a different rate or how exactly this works, but if that tiny little line right there is going to get this guy to 100%, which it looks like it will, that's actually going to be kind of huge. And yeah, absolutely. 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100 as it's coming in here. It's still too long, but only by a little bit. So I'm happy. I'm happy with that line. This one, obviously super inefficient, but it does give us the boats down here. Oh no. Oh, this is a problem. This happens from time to time. We get buildings that are abandoned because no one collects the dead people because there's no crematoriums in here. Honestly, I probably want to build a crematorium in this space because we have a lot of buildings complaining about that, and they're historical buildings, so I need them to not be complaining about it. So I'm going to take out this bit of fence, and I'm just going to go with a regular crematorium, I think. Just this one right here. It is by no means luxurious. It really doesn't belong down here, but it'll do the job. It'll serve the district. This is where the district thing in City Skylines 2 would be so useful. Being able to say that this crematorium only serves this specific district would be absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, not a thing in City Skylines 1, but that'll do the job right there. What I'll do is throw a tree right about here just to sort of blend in a little bit. We'll throw a little palm tree in that corner, a little palm tree back there. And let's see, what else can we do? Let's go for one of these guys right about there with a little bit of color just around it as well. And maybe just a little bit of color here as well. And that looks fine. That'll do the job. We'll swap these guys out for the luxury hearse. And that should deal with the death care in and around our little seaside resort. Unfortunately, I do have to get rid of this guy, which is a pain because now I'm going to have to sit here and make sure that the building that pops up is one that I want. And as nice as it is to have buildings that are identical and fit together perfectly, I don't want the same building twice. Although I guess if I'm patient, I could sit here and wait for this guy to level up and it might look different when it does. So maybe that's what we do. Maybe I don't set it to historic until it levels up, because all of these guys are level 3 buildings. It's just that I set them to be historical when they were level 1. So I guess I'll keep an eye on you. And wouldn't you know, it would level up to be something really, really similar to what it was before. Basically just a 3-story version of the same building. But honestly, I don't mind that. I think that's going to be set to be historical, and that's okay. It's sort of got this like step down thing going on, which I really appreciate. I'd be tempted to let it level up again, to be completely honest, but I don't want it to get too crazy. That's fine. That does what I need it to do. And so I suppose at this point, I might do a little bit of landscaping along this road just to make it all sort of blend together a little bit. I might sort of smooth out some of the cliffs that we have. I might do a little bit of landscaping over here as well. And when that's all done, we'll take a look and see just how many fish we've managed to catch, because I'm not really expecting to be able to build the fishing factory today. It would be nice if we could. I just think that's probably asking a lot of my fishing boats, given that one of them, or one line of them, is a little bit inefficient right now. So let's do some landscaping. Let's get some trees in here. Let's try and blend this all together. We'll take a look at the fish and we'll decide where we're going from there. And you know what? I'm actually kind of pleased with how this has turned out. But I'll tell you what I'm not happy about. I'm not happy about this. This is way too much traffic trying to get down here. And wow, that is a lot. That is so much. Where are you trying to go? You're going to a slaughterhouse up there? Okay, well, that's fair enough. That is so much traffic. Is it still backed up? Oh my God, it's backed up in both directions on that road. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. That is terrible. And I mean, it looks like a lot of it is backed up because I guess it's traffic trying to go this way. So I wonder if I was to go in there and change some of this to be asymmetrical. So if this was all asymmetrical, I wonder how much that's actually going to help. I have my doubts because some of this traffic is going to still try to push through as per usual, but I'm just kind of hoping that a little bit more filtering to get some of that traffic going to the left that little bit sooner might help us out. And then over here, honestly, probably a similar story, although it looks like most of that traffic's trying to go to the right. I don't know. It's starting to get through here. It's backing up pretty badly on this side as well. I'm not going to stress too much about it. I'm aware I'm throwing a lot of traffic at roads that are not designed to deal with a lot of traffic, but it's fine. It'll it'll figure itself out eventually, I'm sure, is what it'll do. At least that's what I hope it does. There's absolutely no guarantees that that's what's going to happen. I mean, I could turn traffic lights on here. I could do a roundabout here. I don't think either of those things are going to help traffic that's backing up this far in several different directions. I think honestly, I might need a priest to help me figure this out. But that's for future me to deal with, because what I want to know is how are we doing on the fish? We have 100,000. That's actually not bad. That's actually considerably better than I was expecting for all of this. And speaking of asymmetrical roads, oh, that would have been such a perfect little spot for an asymmetrical corner, but we don't really need it. There's not that much traffic coming through here. Honestly, though, 100,000 units of fish is pretty solid. I'm quite happy with that. I mean, obviously it could be more if this line wasn't as ridiculous as it is, but I don't mind that. And what's also good is that we don't have that much traffic going through this space. I was honestly expecting a little bit more industrial traffic, but it does seem like it's sticking to this bridge, which is what I wanted it to do. That was kind of the goal. So this is all just kind of worked out really nicely and really perfectly. And that's weird because that doesn't usually happen to me. And speaking of things working out, traffic is slowly starting to clear itself out of here. It is just a lot of traffic trying to go to the right at the moment that's being held back by traffic trying to go literally anywhere else, but that's fine. I have every bit of confidence that this will work itself out. Now, speaking of traffic, and then speaking of things that might be in traffic, specifically buses, because I just happened to see some buses and happened to remember something I forgot to mention about this space. We actually do have some buses in here as well. You might have seen some of them going around already, but we have a couple of different lines and I happen to really like them. So there's two red lines that come in here. One of them is this one, which is just, it's bus line 36. It's not got a name or anything like that, but this line goes from this space up to the airport. It's not a very popular bus line. There's actually no one on the bus right now because most people just use the metro to get up to the airport. In fact, I'm tempted to get rid of that line because there's pretty much no need for it. The other bus line, which I was hoping I'd see a bus for somewhere, this one goes from the little, seaside getaway up to the city. But again, the bus going to the city right now has no one on board because most people use the metro. And the metro is actually really easy to access because of two other bus lines that exist in here. It's these pink lines, this little pink bus you can see down here. Basically, we have mini buses that go in clockwise and anti-clockwise loops around here. And I say mini buses, I mean plural. I literally mean two. There's one that goes one way, one that goes the other, and they do exactly what I want them to do. They go around, they pick people up, they drop them off relatively close to the metro station, which is what I'm assuming this one's doing. It's got 10 people on board. So it's coming down here. It's going to drop those people off. Those people, and this one as well, those people all go to the metro station. They get on a train and they leave the Seaside Resort, which is absolutely perfect. I love how this looks. I love how this functions. I'm so pleased with it. And honestly, I'm happy with this as well. I know this is nothing crazy. This is nothing special whatsoever. This is some very generic industry, but I'm quite pleased with that. I'm quite pleased with how this turned out. And honestly, I'm excited to build a fishing factory in here at some point as well. The whole time I've been speaking, we've just got another 50,000 fish. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to go ahead and leave things there for today. I'm going to leave the game running for today. We're going to get up to that 500,000 fish. And then in the next episode, we'll get that factory built. And we're going to need another project. So if there's anything you want to see me build in Vanillaville before we put a pause in this series for City Skylines 2, let me know in the comments below, because I have a few ideas, but I might be thinking of something that or I might not be thinking of something that you are thinking of. So do let me know in the comments below. We've got a lot here. We're making ridiculous money. The population's pretty good. I'd like to see the population get a bit higher. So I think what I might do is try and fill some of these spaces in with a bit more residential zoning. I might try and fill this space a little bit as well, but I don't know how much of that I'm necessarily going to do on camera, because to be quite honest, generic just building another grid of residential towers is not all that interesting. So I'm liking these little projects. I like that the airport was a project. The farms were a project. This was a project. I like that the university was a project, which, by the way, I don't know if I've covered that today. I finished the university, more or less. It has also slightly burnt down, which I don't love, but I just expanded it ever so slightly, put a couple more buildings in there just to fill in the space. And I also went ahead and built another couple of hotels as well. So that's about everything. That's about everything that I've done in this episode. Oh, what happened here? Why did you go out of business? What happened? No one collected the, oh my, okay. All right. Well, there's a crematorium literally just up the road. I don't know how this happens. Anyway, that is going to do us for today. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.